felt. Yeah.
So, hi guys. Today we have Yuvraj Bhandari, our guest, my first podcast guest with us,
Hello.
and he's the founder of the Voltera Group.
Honored to be here at this very formal setup.
Thank you, sir, for coming. It was, your pleasure. You are so down to earth that you came to our podcast. There are no worries about. Yeah, so let's dive into the podcast. Let's start it.
Yeah, sure. What do you like us?
So, before starting, I want to know about how did you ever thought that you will be an entrepreneur? Have you ever thought of starting a startup?
Yeah, definitely. I think ever since I was little, that's always with the goal. Um, and I think in some way or another, I've always kind of gravitated towards doing things like this. So it could be small acts of self-reliance, or doing things, like selling things, um, like flipping things, and then moving up to stuff like in university, starting my first startup that complete retail. But a lot of people go the corporate route, which is they come to university and they realize that everyone else is getting a fancy job with a fancy title, and I kind of knew that stuff like it's not something for me. Like I always wanted to strike out on my own. So yeah.
How-
So
So you talk about that you started by selling things out in India, like in your childhood or like this in your high school. So could you elaborate on that?
yeah. Just random stuff, right? You find that there's a lot of books at home, old books. Just even the simple act of listing them on like reselling websites, or going up to your friends and trying to discuss matters that are relating to let's say business, or uh, like things that affect business, economics. Really, like take a very complicated problem that you might read in a newspaper and then try to dissect why it's happening the way it is. And these were usually the conversations I had with people, with friends, and that's always interested me. So yeah.
Yeah, so basically, normally in India, most of the people, most of the students in high school, they normally just, focus on their exam. They just normally go to school, had fun. So why were you so much interested in entrepreneurship and all this stuff? How did you get to know about this? Was it something like in your family, were you inspired from?
Definitely. I mean, it always helps to have family members who are also entrepreneurs, right? So I think it runs in my blood. I would definitely say that. I've seen my father and my grandfather build their own businesses. And so that always helps, right? You also think like a owner as opposed to an employee. And you have to have agency, which essentially means you should have the power to take decisions, to make your own outcomes, as opposed to be handed a piece of work and then work on it. So that's usually the mindset that's instilled in people in our household from day one. You're responsible for your own uh, downfall or your own upcomings. So I've always seen it that way, and I think yeah. So ever since childhood, I think I've always done that, and I think even going to unit school, it's always the mindset has always been to learn stuff. You want to learn for the sake of learning, because learning is fun and exciting, not for the grade that people get. Because I know that that's ultimately not the most important thing that shines through in the long run in life. You might be benefited in the short run by getting good grades to get to a good university or get to a good entrance exam. That's definitely important. But did you fundamentally understand the concepts that you read about or learned? And then that's where I think the differentiation comes. Because later on you have to apply these concepts.
Yeah.
And only a thorough understanding of a concept will help you apply it in many different situations, because you understood it and deeply abstracted it, so that it's like a mental framework that you can then use in different facets of your life. So learning and yeah, and also see people around me. Okay.
What you mentioned that your father and grandfather, they had built their own rentals and those business. So in your high school or your time in India, did you uh get to know more about the business? Were you involved in all these things? Were these things discussed when you're having family dinners?
Yeah, definitely. To some extent, I think obviously they did let me in on all the details because you have to have a certain level of maturity to really understand kind things. But I think ever since I was in high school, I assumed some responsibility, whether that would be, uh, it would be something like going to office, their office where they work, their place of work, and then trying to do smaller tasks, do like basic research on things, or just talking to people around, right? I've always spoken to a lot of people, not only just them, but if I spoke to anyone who was elder than me, anyone who I felt I could get any source of knowledge from, anyone who was doing something interesting, I was never afraid to ask questions. I still do. Like, if I genuinely think that you're doing something that is interesting or something I want to learn about, I would not hesitate to come up to you and ask, "Hey, that's something really interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more?" So yeah, that definitely helped.
Yeah, actually, because a lot of students, like even me, I sometimes I'm afraid to ask questions like, nah, like people will judge me around me with a silly question. But when I came to HKU and I have seen people asking questions, I've seen even professors asking questions. So yeah, that's a like really good habit to learn if you want to learn or something.
Yeah.
And also, basically, you've grown in India and everything. Yeah, why? Like, had you ever thought of going to IITs?
Have I ever thought of going to IITs? Not really. No, I kind of knew that I wanted to get out. I mean, not really. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had a general idea that I didn't want to go to IITs and I wanted to get out of India. So I grew up in Mumbai. I think that's a pretty global city by Indian standards. I think it's probably the most well-connected city. So I had some influence of the outside world at very, and yeah, I was always excited to go out and see for myself.
Hmm. So, why did you came to Hong Kong? Like,
Why Hong Kong?
or high school? Why Hong Kong? Why not US?
Why not
I know
US?
Europe, other countries. Why?
Okay, sure. I think Hong Kong. So a lot of my friends go westwards. I think the trend in India is go UK, USA, Canada, and I think that's what everyone does. And so in some way, I always felt like that's a very commoditized thing to do. Like there's nothing unique about you. You're still an English speaking graduate of a good to decent university. For me personally, I felt like the contrarian bet, or the bet that went against the mainstream, was always to go eastwards to China, Hong Kong. I know how people feel about that, but sorry about the airport. Uh, no, but Hong Kong, and then this was a very unique place. I think it still is. HKU is a very good university, but at the time I came, I was very that on doing something that had an intermix of engineering, so something technical with something business related, and I ended up studying uh, logistics and industrial engineering. Or it's a kind of a course that's very heavy with systems engineering stuff. So systems engineering, for people who don't know, is it's a lot of general engineering stuff. So how do you optimize systems? How do you measure different variables that are important in a system? And stuff like this is, again, what I mentioned earlier. It's about broadly applying engineering concepts, breaking things down to first principles. And that's a very important skill in everything else. And also there's a lot of business stuff, because there's a financial aspect to systems engineering, which is the system viable, for example? If you're setting up a system like a factory or a production line, are these systems viable? So there's a cost calculation, there's a basic unit economics derivation. So all of these things are covered in my major, and I feel like for an entrepreneur, it's a very good base, because it helps you kind of understand the technical aspects. So you're never uh, like not technically sound. You still have some bending, because like you could talk to the technical people, and then at the same time, you have some idea of how to operate uh, 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 like a positive in the green business, right? Um,
So basically, it's like engineering plus business, kind of.
exactly. Yeah. Maybe a shade away from that, but something like that.
Hmm. Okay, and then why did you choose this? Like, how did you know? Okay, I'm gonna go for the system engineering instead of
I didn't. I came with an open mind. Actually, I was about to study physics before this. Yeah, and Then I was like, oh, let's do engineering, but electrical engineering, because I always like that part of my high school physics classes, which was related to circuits and electromagnetism and all of that. And I came with an open mind in year one. I was always, let's see what happens, let's see what I want to study. In the end, I decided, not too excited about electrical engineering. Uh, yeah, yeah, and then like took hold, and industrial engineering found a way for me to take it. So yeah.
Do you regret your decision that you took in the students? Okay. So I think it's enough for the like personal life. So
Okay.
let's go to the about your time at HKU.
Yeah.
Let's dive into your startup journey.
Yeah.
So how did you start? How did you begin your startup journey? Like how?
That's like it. Well, so in year one, I tried to. So I've always had this dream of doing something startup oriented. So yeah. So I started off by going to Innowing. They had like a bunch of things on, like projects on display, various technical projects. So we started off somewhere there. We thought it would be an aggregator platform of all of EdTech, like various services in that sector. So tutoring in Hong Kong is a very unorganized market. So my first foray into entrepreneurship that time in Hong Kong was, let's try to organize unorganized market, be an aggregator platform that all the tutors could come in. We would get tutors, that is students who are in prestigious universities, not only in Hong Kong, abroad as well. My friends, get them on the platform, and then they could spend an hour, a week, a month, or whatever, and offer various tutoring packages. Like, let's say 5 hours a week, I'll charge you 500 Hong Kong dollars per hour, which is a relatively, for an IB school, that's a decent rate, right? And we wanted to offer service of that nature to students in Hong Kong. So whether it's IB students or DSE students or whatever, start off with that. We also wanted to offer our own courses. We also wanted to offer, like, make it like do-it-yourself kits. So very naive, too many things to do, very low execution skills at that point. We didn't know, I didn't know. And it comes to execution, right? It comes to distribution. Like, anyone can build a tech platform in these days, especially with the complexity of building a technological platform going down. The major part of the equation comes to who can distribute their services or their offerings the most efficiently. And so I didn't have any means of distribution. I didn't have any connections in high schools in Hong Kong. COVID had hit, so everything was online. No one was even doing tutoring per se. Everyone was doing Zoom classes. So not a good time to run a tech company. Very tough industry to break into, in my opinion. And again, I don't think it was really a problem that warrants a very, very big way. Like, I think it would a lot of complexity in solving something like this, which is organizing the unorganized tutoring sector. And you can't really do everything all at once. So, like, we try to have collaborations with the clubs in HKU to have them build out kits for us. So let's say the racing club would build out like a small racing kit. The drone club would have us, and you are trying to source parts from China as well. So let's say I'm trying to build a drone club, drone kits. We were trying to source parts from China, like the ICs, integrated circuit, and then a bunch of other, let's say, TC motors and stuff, right? And propellers, stuff like that. The flight controller, the picksock. So all of those things, you're trying to source it from China. And then that stuff, the supply chain broke down. I really didn't know how to negotiate with people in Chinese, the people on, Alibaba and the like, all of the sourcing website. And so, yeah, that didn't work. And during COVID, you know how deliveries were in the very, very start of COVID when I came to Hong Kong. And so it didn't end up working out the way I wanted.
So I have some questions regarding your EdTech startup, basically. Yeah. So your startup was basically, you were bringing tutors, you were basically connecting tutors with the students, like a platform where tutors come, they could let their already sell to be like, oh, like, we had this knowledge, we had this skill, we to this stuff, we charge this much, and then even
correct. And then you try to match the tutors with students. And the idea was they could give far more for something like you're doing.
Yeah.
Which is again, if you're better than me at execution, by all means go ahead. But something like we thought that students who gotten into university very recently have kind of cracked the code of how do you navigate um, the 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 landscape of getting into a competitive college, right? And the idea was they could not only act as tutors but also like mentors or like stuff like that, like personalize their offerings or whatever. And so yeah.
So basically, you don't like, you when you started your company, there was COVID came and then it affected your company very badly. But thing is that in India or everybody in the world during COVID, EdTech was booming. Company, there is like billions and billions.
Yeah.
Like, Baidu's, you can take the example of Baidu's. Who are they now? But during COVID, there are like billion donors, like crazy. They went to US and stuff. So, during COVID, people went online. So it wasn't it easy for you to, market your product to people, because high chance of the students going to use those, your platforms to get help from the tutors because schools are closed, everything is closed. Yeah, everything is online.
A couple of things, right? So a couple of nuances. I think definitely there's been a boom in online education per se. One is we didn't have a platform, right? So I think there's a very big difference between being a pitch deck person who makes a pitch deck and being a platform person, which is like just go and demo a fully built out product, right? And so there'll be 100 pitch deck people before you get a person who had the guts and the grit to build up a fully functional platform and then go show it to people. And it takes way more effort. So my first naive experience was go try to raise fund with a deck. And I think at that point, I also learned about picking the correct team. If it really comes to, when push comes to shove, you want a strong team that you trust in with proper work allocation. This was just 4 friends, so 3 of my other friends, who were just building a platform with no proper skill, or we decided, maybe the allocation of work would happen naturally over time. But I think a lot of skills were overlapping, or no one had enough real experience, and in Hong Kong or in the EdTech market. And you also have to ensure that the incentives are aligned and the goal is aligned. When you try to do everything, someone's idea of everything might be they're particularly interested in one small area of that everything. I might be interested in something else. Someone else. So it's like you can't push on 4 cylinders at the same time. You want to have a unified front. Yeah. So that, and then
so basically, let's say if you go back in time, if you have the knowledge and experience that you have now, and you're starting the sales startup again,
I would. Let's say I feel like it's a terrible idea. But the thing is, okay, let's say the very boring. I mean, maybe it's not a terrible idea. I think educating people or trying to bring, let's say, some sort of value to this ecosystem, very valuable. It's education. It is really important for our future, for children's future. Am I passionate about it? Not particularly. Now that I look back on it, I think it was an insight I gleaned from a friend of mine who was tutoring part-time in HKU. He was trying to earn some side money, and I was like, "Oh, why are you doing this? Like, how are you getting in touch with people?" He's like, "Oh, it's mostly done through Facebook groups right now. I post my grades. I'm a IB student with like, let's say 45 out of 45. I'm really smart. If you're interested in having your high school children tutored by me, parents of the Facebook group, come and join me, and I'll do an hour a week or whatever." And I think, yeah, well, why are you doing it through Facebook? You should have like a completely different platform. And I guess maybe you should. Maybe that's something that you can pursue. But for me particularly, I would never do it again. I think I'm particularly not inspired by this type of problem.
Okay, basically, I also searched about the tutors job and thing. I was just searching on the Google, and I found a lot of platforms. Like right now, there are like tons of platforms offering this app or providing the catering services. I have they're like kind of saying they're all doing the thing that you did, but they're successful. They have raised millions. Yeah, but what do you think? What was your issue? Like, why they're successful doing the same idea? Was this a execution?
Are they doing the same idea?
Yeah, they're doing
Like that, same idea. Which platform?
a lot of platforms. I can't name right now, but
Maybe not that. I'm not the exact problem.
So basically, they are offering the.
So there's a bunch of startups in the EdTech space. Let's say in Hong Kong particularly, Big Bang is a big startup that came to mind. There's a bunch I know from Science Park as well. Qualify, I think it's called Qual. Yeah, Qualify Education, something like that. There's a bunch more. So all of these, I think they're mostly. There's one that does, I think, after school programs for kids in ID schools. So essentially, ID schools are probably for people who have a lot of propensity to spend money. The ID school fees are the highest in not only Hong Kong. I think that's a general trend. In it's a private school with international board of education or whatever. So there's a premium price tag, at least as compared to DSE. So these are the schools that are usually doing programs for EdTech. So I was to get into that quota, but I don't speak Cantonese, and everyone else was a non-local in my team at that time as well. So it was very hard for us to even understand. Right, we eat like too many variables. We're trying to understand a market. We're trying to figure a team out at the same time, and so these companies that have raised lots of money, I think first of all they had a decent product, which we did not. We didn't really know how to engineer the product at that time. We didn't know how to iteratively improve on a product. At least so had it, and we didn't know how to go talk to potential investors. I think it never came to even raising investor money. I think it just fell apart at some point. He was just like, this is not working. So the power of persistence and pushing through, that really gleaned a unique market insight. I should have been more persistent in breaking that wall of customer acquisition. I think the hardest thing is in the start, and you don't have a huge marketing budget or venture funded money to run ads or I don't know, referral campaigns or whatever. You have to find a way to push through and get that critical mass of people. And I think I did not at that point. I was not just not truly inspired by the idea. I think I did it because I thought there was something like a market gap. And I figured out, there's a reason the market gap exists. Like it's really hard to understand a business, especially because first of all, there's no unique differentiation for a platform. Everyone else can do it. You can go on Upwork and list yourself as a tutor, for example. You can go to Facebook groups like that. They're already performing malfunction. There's not that much demand. And anyone who wants to do this, that a mom is trying to educate her son or put her son in tutorials or something after school, you can just reach out to a friend of yours who's in let's say the mom reaches out to her friend whose son is a few years older or her daughter is a few years older who's already in university. So I don't think it's that big of a problem you're truly solving. And then for the person and the device part, where we thought that was a unique differentiator, it's really not. I think everything you can get mostly is available, like 90% of it is available online. And then also it becomes the quality of the graduates, right? Like if I'm getting people from really, really elite universities that could act as talking heads for my startup, that's a good thing. I don't think I had that many connections either in let's say in the US university, and you have to really get a wide array and of people from very different types of university. Like let's say the UK had to be represented through